I mean, it's crazy when I'm teaching people and in 15 minutes, they're standing up and they're riding a wave for like 2 minutes straight. I'm like, if they only knew how long it took me to experience that feeling, before I had a boat. So it's just a cool thing. It's a trippy thing.
Bam! I'm Jason Waller with the True Underdog Podcast, and listeners out there, I've got a special treat for you. This guy is as bad as it gets out in the water. I mean, he is next level. He's got the hair to show it if you're a viewer. He's a professional wake surfer lifestyle influencer. He's a world champion skimboarder, and he's the most shared on viral athlete on social media. My dude, Austin Keene, how are you doing?
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
Hey, super excited.
Thanks for the epic introduction there.
I try to bring the energy every time. And true story, is Hawaii a good spot to surf? Because I got a question about that.
Well, Hawaii is like one of the best places to surf if you are at a very high level on like the pro tour of surfing and you're looking to, drop into Pipeline, which is a legendary surf break. But yeah, I guess it's not necessarily the best. It's kind of like a preference on like what kind of wave you want to surf, I guess.
Well,
because one person might consider the best being a small, slow breaking wave at Malibu, and then that might be the best for that guy, or the best might be for Kelly Slater, pulling into a giant double overhead barrel at Pipeline in Hawaii. So
I love it. No, I love it. So the reason I ask is surfing's always been cool. I mean, even when I was growing up, surfing was it. It was like, dude, I'd love to be a surfer, have the dyed hair. It just keeps, the sun keeps beating on it. And just to look cool and have the tan. It's always been, especially as a kid growing up, I grew up in Phoenix. That's kind of the cool thing to do. And I've never tried it. So I went to Hawaii recently. I'm 42 years old. And we had surf lessons with the kids. And so I'm getting ready to go do them. And the two of the kids are like not wanting to do it. And I call in and I'm like, hey, have you guys ever surfed before? No. Well, I hope you're conditioned because you got to go out there with the board every single time. And I'm sitting here thinking like, there's no way. I mean, it's a lot of work. There's no way I could do that for 2.5 hours. That's how long the lesson was to swim out there and start surfing. So I just wanted to ask, like, would I got my ass kicked in Hawaii is the question trying to do that.
Yeah. I mean, and you were probably at a beginner level break where they were, pushing you into some small waves, and you can imagine what it takes to paddle out in serious surf. But yeah, I mean, that's what a lot of people don't realize is half of surfing is, being competent in the water, working your way up to that. It's not just like you have it or you don't. I mean, some people do if they're born in a place like Hawaii, right?
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, you were born in Tybee Island, Georgia, right? You're from Georgia.
Yeah.
What the hell made you want to surf if you're out in Georgia?
Man, I just caught my first wave and I was hooked after that. What can I say? And action sports always kind of spoke to me. I went to some pretty bad schools, and the last thing I wanted to do, I was an athletic guy, but the last thing I wanted to do was stay at school for another hour or 2 hours at soccer practice or football practice or something like that. And I guess I've always been kind of an independent individual, and I think that's why action sports spoke to me. It started with skateboarding, and then caught my first wave at the beach, and I was hooked. And I already liked the beach lifestyle. Like always, since I was a kid, I was always drawing palm trees and wanting to be at the beach. So, yeah, I mean.
Well, it says here you drove how old were you when you drove your 1975 BMW from Tybee Island, Georgia to Laguna Beach?
17 years old.
Moved out and said, that's it. This is the life for me.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, I did have help from my mom. She got to travel. My parents got divorced around 15, 16, and then my mom was kind of open to job opportunities, and she did get offered a travel nursing opportunity in California. And ironically, at the same time that I was visiting California for the first time, and she's like, would you ever want to move out there? I'm like, obviously, yeah. Like, that would be the dream. So, I mean, that was honestly a gift from the universe for me, is having her go out there. I hung out, stayed on Tybee for a while, and then eventually I had to have my baby with me, my 1975 BMW. So I drove that sucker out cross country. I think like a week after I had my first car accident, and drove it into the back of another car. But we pulled out the radiator, got a Volkswagen Jetta, hooked it up to the hood, pulled that thing out. We made it work, and we drove that thing what's that, 3,000 miles across country or something like that. So, and I actually did it 2 more times after that. So I kept that, me and that car have had some moments together for sure.
It brings me back to memories I had. I had a 91 Honda CRX. It's not as cool as a 75 Beamer, but I was 17 years old, so it was 1998, and I drove from Charlotte, North Carolina, all the way to Phoenix, Arizona by myself, and drove back, 3 months later by myself. And those
I
kind of
think that
road trips are
qualifies. I think
crazy,
that
man.
qualifies as cross country.
I would
I
agree it
mean,
does, but
I mean,
it's
Phoenix is what, 5 hours from the coast of California, so,
six, five
or
to
I don't
six,
know,
yeah.
6 hours, yeah.
And that's before when I did it, they didn't have like MapQuest on your phone, man. I had a paper map.
Oh, same.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
there
you
was no.
get
I
it,
didn't
right?
have
And
a. I didn't have a smartphone back then, so I
people
mean, it
don't
was
realize that.
it
That's
was
tough.
MapQuest.
Yeah.
Most people nowadays do not know what MapQuest. Not most people. I say kids now, right? I mean,
Right.
I'm still a young guy, but like I'm actually pretty stoked to have seen that transition from MapQuest to Google Maps. I mean, this is like the best thing ever, you know? So,
I know.
oh, look at
Wow.
there. You see that? 11111 or 1111. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, that
Um,
is crazy. So
so
tell me about this. So you go out there and you're a young kid and you have this vision. I mean, this whole episode, for the listeners out there, I labeled this episode "Being Purpose Driven on a Mission." And you had a mission when you went there. Talk about the first couple years when you first got there and how you were trying to follow that dream and that mission.
bear with me. I'm still trying to work on my elevator pitch for this whole
I'm a
prompt
pitch
here.
master, dude. I can work
So
with you on that.
I'm gonna work on it. But yeah, I mean, I grew up in a very not, I guess, pretty conservative household. Just and grew up in the South where it's very conservative, and there's not a lot of like, wasn't a lot of like narrative for like exploring what you want to do in life. It was more about just like getting a solid job, working hard, get a family, go to college, have kids, and then just kind of like teach them to be in the same loop. And I just saw that around me. I was like, there's got to be like, and then I grew up in like the, Christian background where kind of kept you in line with all that. And I just felt like there had to be more to life. Like there was no like talk about like pursuing what you love or like, now we like nowadays we're so blessed. I'm kind of fast forward, but you're so blessed to have social media to where you can like literally make a living doing almost anything. I mean, there's guys like on TikTok that are their lives are being changed because they have a funny look and they're doing a dance or something. So
It's crazy.
I guess I just knew from the beginning I wanted to kind of you know utilize whatever talent I had and try to take that to the moon in some direction. But there was a lot of doubt along the way. I mean, there's a lot of like constant, oh, maybe I should do this, maybe I should do that. Like, I mean, what should I go to college for? Just kind of in the back of my mind or side of my mind. But I had two older brothers that kind of went that route, and I was like, all right, I'm going to try to do something a little different here. And I think I was just really gifted at action sports from a young age, and uh, I didn't even know back then that you could make a living through action sports. I mean, of course I saw people on the X Games and TV, but
Hmm.
I didn't really put that together that they were actually living out a career path, because I just was never even taught any of that people actually had career paths outside of being like, owning a construction business or being a landscape designer or something. So, um, yeah, anyways, I guess, I was on a mission from the beginning. I didn't know how I was going to get there. I still don't know how, like what path I'm taking. And it's kind of a bummer. I feel like it holds me back a little bit, not having any clear cut goal or pathway in mind. But at the same time, it's so hard to do that when the world is shifting and changing constantly. I mean, I didn't even know social media was going to be that way for me to curate an audience and leverage that for value. Uh, and even when that came around, I didn't know Instagram was going to all of a sudden make it allowed to upload videos. That was before Instagram even allowed videos, and now it's
Hmm.
all video. So like things always changing, and now you have podcast opportunities like this to kind of share your story and stuff like that. And people are like yourself are, uh, you know, going down the podcast path, I mean, that didn't even exist before I don't know. I don't even know when podcasts came around, to be
I think
honest
they
with you.
got. I think podcasts got popular the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 years. I think it's been around a while. I did it for fun during COVID, and it exploded, right? Because I still run a company, a huge shoulder company with 2,100 employees.
Sorry about
But I do this for fun to learn from people and to share their stories and kind of give back. And it exploded just because some of the stories on there and some of the guests I had. But I love podcasting. I love sharing knowledge, and I love gaining knowledge every time I talk to people like yourself. I always catch a gem or two, like, wow, that was interesting, I can utilize that. It's always trying to be relative, and that's what the podcast, at least on this show, is about, is people being able to relate to you and take that into their everyday lives. And I think a couple things you touched base on is, and I'm a big believer in this, and I live in North Carolina now, and I will tell you, I go on record, I hate it. I grew up in Phoenix, Arizona. Then I moved to North Carolina and met my high school sweetheart. We have 4 kids and 2 grandkids, but I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. And when we moved to Michigan, and people are like, really, Michigan? Birmingham, Michigan is outside of Detroit. It is a bougie little city with like 8 steakhouses that are top notch within like a 5 mile radius. All the restaurant owners we know. I mean, when you got an Equinox and a Lifetime gym at the corner, you're in the right area. All of those
Okay.
things going on, right? Like, wow, it's
This is in
big
North
city
Carolina?
living. No, 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 no. This is in Birmingham, Michigan. So
Oh,
I lived
Birmingham,
here for
Michigan.
a
I was like,
long
I haven't been
time,
to that
right?
part of North Carolina.
Yeah, no, I live over towards Davidson and Mooresville, North Carolina, over by Lake Norman. And so, living
Okay.
here, it's still small town Bumpkinville. Going to high school here, things you were saying was like, everybody, it's just acceptable to just go to college and get a job and have a family. That's winning in life here. The bar is so low. The line that people see, they can't see left or right at all. It's just straight ahead. And I can't stand that because I've got kids. So when we moved to Michigan, it was so much different. The culture was so much different. It's different in Arizona. It's different in California. But the South, from like Virginia down, is exactly what you said it is. It is
Yeah.
people stuck thinking it's okay if I become a landscape designer. It's okay if and I'm not saying, I'm
And it
not knocking
totally
anybody
is
that
if
does
that's what you
that.
want to do. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that, but it's just a bunch of sheep doing what's expected. There's not enough lions like yourself saying, that's not for me. I'm going to go explore something else.
Yeah, I mean it's totally awesome if that's what you want to do. I mean, I was even interested in landscape design because I love plants and I like making cool, like I love architecture and stuff like that. But the problem is when you feel like you have no other choice or option. And you're suppressing maybe hidden talents that you could be sharing with the world, or you might be suppressing your strengths in life or what you could really be excelling at because you're only caught in this one little narrow pathway of the culture that you're in.
It's
I think
limited
that's what the
opportunities.
problem
It's
is.
limited opportunities is the biggest deal
Totally.
in the South, right?
And I see it. I've seen so many, like, even kids, because I have a soft spot for kids, just like, you know, focusing on their passion, because that was me at one point. So, like, I even seen a lot of, like, kids with a lot of potential, and then they just stay a little too long. Like, they just don't get that out. It's like not getting, and the thing is like, I don't think I ever had that out. I mean, the only thing I can think of is when my mom got that travel nurse opportunity. That was like my opportunity out. I mean, I'm pretty confident I would have got out either way because I was already checked out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I'm thankful for that opportunity, and some kids don't get that little extra push, or they're not surrounded. I mean, and it's hard when you're surrounded by people who are constantly in that loop and doubting you, and so you got to be. It's not a safe, secure path, and I think that's why a lot of people don't take it.
Yeah, they take the path of least resistance, and they don't want to be judged.
Totally.
Everybody wants to be accepted, and if this is the normal and it's limited options here, because you're right, there's nothing. I've got friends that own landscape companies, landscape designers, whatever it is. I'm just saying the opportunities, the options are small when you're in the South, and so the mindset of most is small. They don't think of I want to be a YouTuber. I want to be a surfer. I want to be a skateboarder. I want to be a jockey horse racing. Whatever it is you want to do,
Yeah.
it's limited options. And I'm excited that the listeners can hear a kid from Georgia that loved skateboarding and got a taste of surfing and was like, had the opportunity, stars aligned, and you said, look, even if I didn't have my mom, I was checked out. Too many people out there, hopefully they're listening to what you're saying, they're scared to take that chance. We only get one life. We don't get a redo. So
Yeah.
live to the fullest. If there's something it's worse to say, I wish I would have done that years ago, rather than say, I did it and I didn't like it. Like, talk about jobs. I had 25 jobs before I was 25. Then I figured out, oh, I'm an entrepreneur. I want to be my own boss. But I don't regret any of that because I tried every single option. But a lot of people don't try what you're doing. So hopefully some of the listeners can hear, in your voice and conviction of like, look, I had a mission. I was wanting to do something different, and I got out of there to do it regardless. And so hopefully they can piggyback off that. But I want to talk about
Totally.
the safety of surfing, right? And wakeboarding and things like that.
What a
right?
transition.
Yeah. Well, hey, get out there. Now it's like, okay,
Hey, now
shit,
this
you got
is
to
how
be
you
safe.
don't kill
Don't
yourself
die,
in the
right?
water. Yeah.
How
I was about to say I have a million things I could have talked about right in what you just said, but I'm
No,
all
then
for
finish
this.
that before we get to the safety thing.
I mean, I get fired up about this stuff, man. I'm very passionate about like motivating uh, people to follow what they love. I mean, especially nowadays because we live in this crazy, just pinnacle time of human civilization where like we've never had the opportunity to be so chill, laid back, enjoy life, and now we have all these crazy free like platforms to like share what we love to do or like even potentially make a living doing the most ridiculous thing that you might be into. So like it's just like if you can't do it now, then there's never a time in history that you would have ever been able to make a living, doing what you love.
How old are you?
I'm 31 now.
31.
And
So
I'm
11
still
years
chasing that
different.
dream. I'm still hustling. Like every day, I'm just like, and I think that's why, that's what keeps me going is the further ahead I get, the more anxious I am to like not go backwards and go back. Cause I know that things are fragile, and I've worked all the shitty jobs, and that's what I think. I'm very grateful to be on a podcast like this and be able to talk about my story. Because I think a lot of people see my social media, and I was talking to my girl about it recently too. I'm just like, I feel like I post too many like highlights. Social media is like a highlight, and that's kind of what has been my template on social media is like post all my banger stuff, like all the best stuff. And I think most of the people following me don't even realize that I grinded for years and years and years. I worked all the shitty jobs. I was a plumber's assistant here in Laguna Beach just while I was competing on the tour to win my world title. I was working full time at a restaurant, bartending. I painted houses. I would work dock construction in Savannah, Georgia, in the mud, 4 a.m, working with the tides. Like, my first job in California was at a Pinkberry, pouring frozen yogurt. So it's
I
like
love
I've done all.
Pinkberry. Love Pinkberry.
Yeah. So I've done all the stuff, and there's stuff that you have to do to get to where you want to get, but as long as you have the goal in mind that it's only stepping stones. If you're doing it just because, this is just working to live, then that's where you get in that loophole or that loop. But
I agree.
if you're using it as stepping stones,
it sounds like you're good at making decisions. You don't sit in the mud, and no pun intended from you working on the docks in Georgia.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
You don't sit in the mud where a lot of people that are listening are like, well, yeah, but I could do something I really want to do, but Austin had this. They always find excuses, right?
Totally,
Or
man.
they're like, oh, I'm going to do this, and then all they think about is, well, maybe I should have done that. So I'll tell you
And I catch myself doing that same exact thing. I'm actually very indecisive, but I think the only thing that keeps me from getting caught up in that is just being a man of action and not wanting to beat around the bush and not wasting any time. Because I mean, I see like I don't know what you believe, and I respect any spiritual or religious beliefs out there, but I took me a long time to realize that being okay with not knowing what's after this and knowing that what I do know is this is all I have right now. It's like that fuse is burning up. So it's like I want to make the most out of life, and it's good to hustle and grind, but it's also good to balance it out. So I would have loved to just hustled my ass off, grinded, and been in like a pro tennis player or like a running back in the NFL or something like that. But I wouldn't have been as happy. So like I balanced it with stuff that I truly love, which is surfing and action sports. Sure, it might take me 15 years longer to get there to that path to make my first million or something, but every step of the way, I'm going to be balancing that.
You broke up a little bit.
Oh, I was gonna say I'm balancing
Okay.
that out with something I love
Okay,
and
there you go.
enjoy.
I got the okay, good. Okay,
I
so
might actually have to turn it on to the my speaker output here in a second.
it's about to die.
I think my headphones are, yeah. But go ahead.
All good. We'll make it work either way. Um,
Okay.
one thing that I live my motto on, Austin, is I watched my dad. He was a blue collar dude, right? AT&T. And I was 14 when we were in Arizona and he was getting transferred. And we moved to North Carolina. I'm glad we did. I met my wife, got my kids, and I always have no regrets. Every good decision, bad decision, as long as I made a freaking decision, I have no regrets. But I remember my dad having an opportunity to open his own business. I remember his buddy Mike owned all these video stores when video stores were cool. And he said, "Hey, Bill, I'll open you up a sub shop. You don't have to move because of, being with AT&T, shut down the plant, moved to North Carolina, stay here." And I remember my dad talking to my mom. I talk about it in the book all the time. And I watched him tell Mike and tell my mom, "No, I've got two kids with asthma." He's talking about brother and sister. I got to keep my benefits. I got to keep the corporate job. I would love to do that, but I'm not going to. And he kept his job and we moved to North Carolina. We ended up living in a trailer park, didn't have a lot of money, had to deliver papers at night and do this, the whole nine. But I remember telling myself between the ages of 15 and 17 that I love my pops and he works his ass off. But he played it to not lose. And I want to play to win. And Austin, I can tell you play to win. You play to fulfill your
Hell
dreams.
yeah.
You don't play it safe. You play to win. And too many people play to not lose. You got to play to win. If you want to
Yeah, and
maximize your life, you got to.
totally. And I think that's especially for young people listening right now. I mean, I think it's most important for them. Like that's the time to take risk, like try to make you said, make a decision. Don't get hung up on perfection. I mean, I'm a perfectionist and that's one thing that'll keep me from acting. And it's just like you need to just get started because before you know it, you've already got half the job done to get where you want to be.
Yeah, we could talk about, being motivated because you seem like a very motivational, inspirational guy, believes in momentum, believes in people doing the right thing and putting in the effort. But how hard is it in what you do? Because you were talking about you post all these highlights, and that's the greatness of what you do. But it takes a shit ton of mistakes, hurt, bad things happening all the time for you to really get to get those great clips. What is some of the bad and struggles that you've had to get to those great moments?
I think a lot of it's mental, it's a lot of self-doubt, as driven as I am and as much success as I've had, and small accomplishments along the way, I still doubt myself all the time. And I think you just go through ups and downs, and especially when your career like mine is revolving around social media, which can be so toxic mentally and taxing mentally. I think, it's easy to let some of that creep in, and then also just having to be on top of like how to keep your engagement up and keep people interested, but also being authentic. And I always try to come off authentic. And yeah, I think that's been the most struggle is just like up and down motivative moments. I mean, I feel like if I have one particular roadblock to get past, I'll get past it. I'm not afraid of that. It's more the stuff that you don't know. I think that's what the unknown is, what the unknown, and not having an answer of how to get through that. I think that's the hardest speed bumps for me to get past.
I would agree. And you didn't go out there and just win the world championship immediately. It took a lot of hard work, I like to say, take the stairs. You're grinding and grinding, working a job, helping to pay for your lifestyle so you can get to
Yeah.
that point. When you won the championship, what was the feeling? And then what was the feeling the next day?
It's like, I always grew up watching those Disney movies where things like Brink or something, they're on the half pipe, they do the 900, they come down, and all of a sudden the people come up to them, handing them pieces of paper. Oh, we want you to ride for our company, this and that. So like, I grew up with that visual. I'm like, and I became a world champion, and I think 1 or 2 days later, I'm back at my restaurant filling up iced tea and coffee at 9 a.m. to prep for the day and pour Sprites for these kids that just got back from a soccer team. And I'm like, I'm a world champion athlete. I got like, and this is back in the beginning of Instagram, I was like, I got 7,000 people following me who are interested in what I'm doing. I'm a world champion athlete, and I'm over here working this shitty restaurant job. And I think that was the point where I made the decision where I was like, if I could even just say I lived off my living at any point in this niche little sport that has no exposure, at least I can be proud of my future self can be proud of myself and say I did it for a year. And that's when I kind of put my 2 weeks in. I was like, hey, I'm going after it. And yeah, it was a lot of weird transitions for me. Like leveraging that value for sponsors to pay me. I almost felt like I was asking for money. That was before I really looked at it as a value exchange, which I do now. But you know, it's transitioning, a lot of transitional processes along the way for sure. But it wasn't glamorous.
No, it never is.
I didn't win the Wimbledon, you know, and get the $14 million Nike sponsorship afterwards.
Oh my goodness. Well, you're in a tough sport that not a lot of people know about. All the chicks dig it though, right? I mean, you got a girl. I
don't know. I think my audience is like 85% men, so I wouldn't go far as to say that.
Those are guys that want to be you though, man. They want to be champ and be up there surfing. What is there some of the most dangerous things you've seen happen? Any friends, any close people really get hurt? The waves really take control? What are some of the struggles there?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen some pretty heartbreaking situations that were actually not even in the worst, you know, most dangerous conditions, which is what really will put you in place, is when you see something really bad go down and it wasn't even in a quarter of how dangerous conditions get when you're out there. I'm not like a super big wave guy, so I'm not out there on jet skis with inflatable blow up vests and like at Nazare or anything like that. So I'm not in full on situations like that. But I mean, I've been into some of the strongest shore break and rip currents in the world, like in Cabo and Brazil, and I've seen some very sketchy things happen. And also I've seen some heartbreaking situations, like I said, that were in not even serious conditions. So
I wanted to go back to something real quick too. When, you know, you were only 10, 11 years apart, and there was a lot of pressure in my generation, and I'm assuming in your generation, especially growing up in the South, that if you didn't go to college, you were a loser, right? Like winning was, hey, you got to go to college, you got to get that job. We talked about it. But if you didn't go to college, you were a loser. And I put that pressure on my oldest, who's 23, until she became 17 or 18. And I realized she's not going to go to college. And I never went to college. And I'm not knocking anyone going to college. But it's not necessary. You see these YouTubers you mentioned, you know, other super athletes, other influencers, actors, a lot of people, business owners. I'm an entrepreneur, never went to college. You have other opportunity where you don't need to feel the pressure that you have to go to school. And the shit they teach you in school is not even great. It's not even good.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's cool to go to college and get a general education and learn more about, like maybe go for your 2 years at a community college and learn more about geography in the world and history and stuff like that, because there's a lot of cool things to learn. And I went to community college for like a year and a half, and that was my favorite part, is learning more about, you know, geography and world history and stuff. But outside of that, there's no point in going into massive debt if you don't know what you want to go for, you know? Right. If you want to chase a career path that requires that education, then definitely go for it. If you want to learn a little bit more about business and you think taking a business course is going to help you with that, then do it. But I don't think people need to go, you know, or maybe you want to, you know, go for being like an audio technician and be in the audio world. That probably requires, you know, really diving in and learning about that skill. Yeah. But there's, like we said, social media, you got YouTube, you can learn. And if you're talented, if you're pursuing a talent, especially, it's like, I don't think that requires a college education.
I just think we don't do the kids justice by putting that pressure on them. It should be optional. You know, that's, I think, the biggest thing. Yeah. And I always tell my friends, like, don't force your kid to go to college. Like, make sure it's something they want to do. But I want to talk about how your commercial opportunities, TV shows, magazine features, and a huge influencer on social media that you jumped into. How did you become a social media star?
I think that just from the beginning, I saw the value in Facebook, even when I was just getting personal friend requests, and I hit like my max and I was like, oh shit, like I didn't even know I had a max of friend requests. And then I was like, I guess I got to make a business page. So I did that. I started bringing people over and I was like, hey, the worst that's going to happen is I have an audience. And if I start like a business or something, I can I can reach all these people. So I didn't even really have the idea of like being any value of having a big audience except that at the beginning. And then Instagram came along. I even remember my friend showing me Instagram, and I told him, I was like, I will not get an Instagram. I'm already dealing with Facebook. And then like a week later, I got an Instagram. Oh yeah. And Yeah, I just kind of kept, and I posted my first skim photo on Instagram after a few other ones, realized how well it engaged. And it was just kind of riding that wave ever since then of like learning what was doing well based off of my content that I wanted to share. And in a nutshell, just being consistent, creating creative videos. And I realized that creative videos were going to do the best for me of getting shared by other platforms and more people seeing that post.
Hmm.
So I think from the beginning, I was really on the creative side of stuff, like sharing my raw clips of skimboarding and this and that, but also like every now and then doing something creative and viral, you know? So,
You've got some
uh,
cool videos out there, dude. I mean, I was paying attention.
I,
That's some hot shit right there. So, legacy, what's next for Austin King?
right now we got some big things cooking. I can't really say right now, but we got some pretty cool things we're working on that I'm excited to share this year for sure. Two things actually that I'll be launching. Um, and outside of that, we're going to keep giving the audience what they want, which is really cool, dope videos. I'd like to start sharing more of my story, more of the real stuff for sure. Um, but I also want to continue to inspire people and, you know, let them know that, hey, I was just a little kid from Georgia here with putting a piece of plywood on a couple tires after school, you know, with the closest skate park 2 hours away. And now here, you know, here I'm doing all this stuff. You know, I wasn't handed any of this. I had a lot of
Right.
help along the way. I'll never forget that. A lot of motivation from uh, mentors and stuff like that. But I mean, overall, it's like no one's going to get you there except yourself. So you gotta put in the work, put in the hustle, drive, do the shit that is required to get you there. If you got to work at a Pinkberry or do some dock construction, but have that goal in mind, you know,
I love it.
to get where you want to be and focus on what you love.
No, well said, man. Well said, and I truly believe you're an inspiration. No, nothing was handed you. Everybody has some help along the way. That's called
For
having
sure.
friends and family and stepping stones. And you're right, coaching and mentoring is so important. I try to mentor people all the time, and I always try to get coaching all the time I can, just so I can be a better me. I have a motto called AGB, always getting better. And I treat every day like a playoff game. It sounds like you do the same thing.
I
Like
like that.
you won a championship and you're like, here I am doing this shit. I got to get on the grind more. And it's that mindset, Austin, that people need because people celebrate too much too long and then they get complacent. And as long as you understand it's a playoff game, it's okay to, all right, good job. What's next? I think people can continue to grow. That's my opinion. Now, I'd love to get on there, but you would be like, Jason, don't drown, do this. We'd have cameras there. It'd be bad because,
No, and
you know,
actually, I wanted to actually bring up the surf series and wake surfing because that's become like this half of what I'm doing now. You know, I
talk
started
about
as a
that. Talk
yeah,
about
so
that.
like I started as a skimboarder and like just always keeping your peripherals open to opportunity and expansion is kind of what I really believe in, and not shutting the door on stuff and just kind of keeping your peripherals open. And that's kind of what I did and how wake surfing kind of came into my life because I had just won the world championship. I was just about to win the last like contest I ever wanted to win, which was the most prestigious, the Vic World Championships here in Laguna Beach. And I just wanted something more. I was like, man, these contests are foundation in the sport so small. Like, I want something else to like put my energy into because I feel like I'm putting a lot of energy into this, but I'm not getting a lot back in return.
Right.
Like social media, I'm getting more people are seeing one social media post than the amount of people that see me at every single contest tour stop combined. So I was like, I need something else. And I saw people doing this stuff behind boats, and I've not have any experience behind wakeboard boats. I grew up in Georgia. Everybody's got outboard motors, fishing and stuff like that. So never had the opportunity to be on a wakeboard boat. And besides, my family could never even buy me an N64. They're not going to buy me a freaking boat, to wakeboard behind.
Yep.
So we noticed that there was a legendary wake skater, like the godfather of wake skating and pro wakeboarder Scott Byerly, who rode for a similar sponsor as me. And we are like, hey, that'd be cool if we can link up, and went out wake surfing with him. And kind of in a nutshell, like that next 3 to 6 months just kind of like unraveled with wake surfing. I created like a viral video within like 3 months of wake surfing for the very first time. I signed with like one of the biggest manufacturers and wakeboarding, the first guys ever to manufacture a wakeboard, Liquid Force Wake. And Yeah, I mean, one thing led another, and next thing you know, I was creating all this content behind boats, and nobody was really approaching the sport creatively, which is what I wanted to do. I was like, hey, I got put so much competitive energy into skimboarding. I want to kind of approach this sport more, not being the best guy. Like, I don't want to come into these people's like community and just be like, oh, I'm the best, trying to be the best,
Right.
and I'm competitive because I'm very competitive, and I am, especially in skimboarding, but I wanted to kind of come like this to be more of a creative outlet. And yeah, it worked out for me because I kind of made a big splash in that industry. And now here I am working with some of the best companies in the world in that industry, like Mastercraft Boats, Liquid Force, and we got a lot of cool things we have planned ahead. And now we're doing a celebrity surf series. And the reason we started the celebrity surf series is because it's such an easy, low impact sport to learn with no action sports experience ever. I mean, like you could have never gone snowboarding or skateboarding. Like you're on the back of the boat, you're going slow, you're not strapped in, so the chance or risk for injury is very low. Um, and being able to be on the back of the boat telling somebody exactly what to do in that moment and put them, once you get them standing up on the board, you just kind of pull them into the wave, get their balance right, put your foot this way on the board, and they get their balance right, they drop the rope, and all of a sudden they're surfing. They're basically getting the experience of riding a wave for 2 minutes straight, which in the course of about 20 minutes, which would take any surfer a lifetime to experience that. I mean, you could be surfing for 5 to 10 years and never surf a wave for 2 minutes straight in your life if you never had the opportunity to go travel to Malibu or Sri Lanka or something like that. So I think that's the coolest thing about wake surfing. And it is a small 2 foot wave, but you're getting that experience of getting all that wave time in one sitting. And every time we teach somebody, they absolutely fall in love with it. It becomes their new hobby. And there's celebrities and athletes doing it all over the United States in their free time. Kim Kardashian's doing it. She's been like 7 or 8 times. Uh, we've had, Bob Manray has been on there. There's all kinds of people. We've had, I mean, obviously the obvious ones who would be good at it, like we had Tony Hawk on the Celebrity Surf Series, piece of cake for him, right? But we've had Whitney Cummings, a female comedian legend who
Yeah.
just had every bit of doubt in her mind that she'd actually be standing on the board surfing. And by the end of the day, she had like a 2 minute ride. So it's a really cool thing to provide that to people. It kind of brings them into my world. And it's cool to see the vibe change from when they come on the boat. They're a little bit reserved, like, what the hell am I doing here on this boat with this dude with dreads, blah, 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 to like after they're done, after they ride and I ride, they're just like, they just completely open up and they want to have a cool conversation. And that's kind of what we do on Celebrity Surf Series.
No, I'm gonna have to check that out. I haven't seen it, but I'm gonna have to check it out. Bob didn't tell me about it, but I will tell you, I've wakeboarded a few times. I didn't have a Mastercraft. I had a ski nautique for a while when we lived on the lake, and am not coordinated. And I was wake surfing, holding onto the rope, and we had
Okay.
some guys showing us how to do it. My kids were rock stars, but I struggled. I was never able to let go of the rope. I always had to hold the rope and surf. That was my deal.
Yeah, I mean, and
But
that could be two major factors. One, the boat that you were behind wasn't making like an actual solid surfable wave, and two, being probably the most likely, is like the board size wasn't right for you. I mean, if you're on a small board that's too small for you, then you're never going to surf, even on the perfect wave. So,
yeah.
um,
But it's a cool experience. Like just being even holding onto the rope and being able to do it, it is awesome.
I
So I
mean, it's
know
crazy.
that
Like the craziest thing is like I sit here and I love teaching people for the first time because I'm like, I know what it takes. And you talked a little bit about it at the beginning of the podcast of what it takes to paddle out, get beat by the waves and be in the element. And that's just one day of surfing. It takes you maybe a week to get to the point where you're self-sufficient and can paddle into your own wave. And even when you get on that and get into that situation and paddle into your own wave and you stand up, that's going to be a 5 to 8 second ride, if that, as at a beginner. I mean, it's crazy when I'm teaching people, and in 15 minutes, they're standing up and they're riding a wave for like 2 minutes straight. I'm like, if they only knew how long it took me to experience that feeling,
yeah.
before I had a boat. So it's just a cool thing. It's a trippy thing. So
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
I'm going to check out the show. I'll take any invite that you ever get out there. I come to Laguna a lot to film a show called 2 Minute Drill and Office Hours with David Meltzer. I don't know if you know him.
Okay. Yeah.
So he's my CEO coach, good friend. But when I come out there, I'm going to have to
Hey,
hit you up, dude.
let's have both you guys come out on the boat.
Yeah, dude, you know who he is? He's Jerry Maguire. That the
Yeah,
movie's
yeah.
about him.
Yeah.
I would love to see him on there because he's a little shorter and rounder than I am. So that would be a hoot for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, absolutely. Hey, I appreciate you, Austin. Thank you so much for coming on here and sharing your story. And thank you for being you and taking things to the next level. We need more folks that are going to live out their
supposed
dreams.
to have him on the boat. I was on his podcast, and we were supposed to have him on the boat.
He's a good dude. He's my CEO coach. We're like best friends, and I love the guy. He's such a great guy. But he's busy. Like right now, he's in like Dubai. Like he goes everywhere, and I'm like, how do you do that and have all these kids? So we're getting ready
next
to
time
take
you guys link up in Laguna, my boat's only a quick 25-minute ride south on the 5 freeway, right there in the Carlsbad Lagoon. We hop on, hop off, and only take a couple hours out of the day. We'd love to have you guys out there.
Dude, I'd love to check it out. Thank you so much, Austin. Thank you, everybody, for joining the True Underdog podcast. Make sure you follow Austin. Make sure you check out his YouTube and follow True Underdog as well. Bam! And that concludes another episode here on True Underdog. If you're interested in hearing more, make sure you subscribe at iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or the YouTube channel. You can always visit TrueUnderdog.com, subscribe to all of them. Make sure you check out our newest episodes coming out on Mondays and Thursdays. True Underdog, baby. Bam!